have a good UI so that people actually want to use your products, but have a good UX so that they continually keep coming back to your website. Hi everyone, welcome to O4S Labs podcast. So today I have me, Ritika, and we have Amit with us, who is working as a senior product designer with O4S. And together both of us are going to decode laws of UX for you. So Amit, would you like to tell us something about yourself first?
Yeah, hi Ritika. My name is Amit Vashne. I have started my career in 2010, where I have joined a startup and I was their second employee as a graphic designer. So I have entered a graphic designer. I've entered the position from the graphic designer and then gradually moved towards the UI UX, the logo design, game character design, and all those things, and product design, and finally I'm here. So I worked around 11 or 12 years of in design industry.
Nice. So I'm Ritika. So I'm working as a product manager with O4S. I come with a diverse background with almost 11 years of experience working around engineering roles, startups, core business roles, and now I'm here taking care of the core B2B efforts. So let's start with the podcast. I think we have got an interesting topic lined up for today. So the topic which we want to delve into is UX. What are the laws of UX and how designers and product managers can utilize these laws of UX to create a better user experience for their customers, create better products, and how to create overall good customer experience. But before we go into that, let's talk a little bit about what is UI, what is UX, and what are all different types of X's out there about which we can help our users understand.
Right. So there is a very so UI UX is a very vague term as of now because there's a lot of confusion. What is UI and what is UX? Is UI a part of UX or they are separate? Is UI a different from UX? Some people say that I am a UI designer, but some people say that I am a UX designer. But if you see, from a real world's perspective, so whatever you see, if you feels like using that product, that is because the UI of that product could be better. So for example, if I am using this cup and if this cup is beautifully designed, right? So I can buy that cup, right? But after using this cup, if I realize that the usability is not good, right? Then the UX is not good.
Right. So to add on to this point, like in terms of user experience, so on any jug or cup or anywhere, there's a handle which is there. So it is very intuitive for us to hold this piece of utensil from that handle only.
Exactly.
So this is part of UX. But had this handle been on the top, we would have probably not used this product to drink a tea or coffee.
So that is for just a showcase.
Yes.
Right. So so for me, UI is the subset of UX because whatever you see, whatever you feel is your experience, right? So if it is enhancing your experience, then it is a good user experience. Be it maybe the color, the aesthetics of the building, whatever. Maybe these plants, if they are, so let's say if they are a fake plants, for example, right? So but you look at you are looking into these plants and you feel that so you give a positive feeling, so they give a positive feeling to you.
Right.
In that perspective, this is a better UI. But are they functional? No, they are not functional, right?
Right. So tying back UI and UX to digital products, since we work in a company where we are making digital products. So for example, let's say if we take an example of an e-commerce site. So the UI of the e-commerce site could be a mobile app or could be a website, and the user experience of it would be the end-to-end selection of something you want to buy, and then moving through the website or the mobile app, the cart checkout. So the whole the touch point of a user to a single channel on this product is something which we call as user experience for the user. And then over and above, there are other terms. So basically, you can add experience to anything, and then it becomes a CX UX term.
Right. So one more point I would like to add actually. So UI has an element of art,
Yes.
right? But UX has an element of science.
Behavioral science.
Could be anything, right? UI is so if you are solving a visual problem. So let's say if the wall is very bland, right? And if you want to put a painting over there, or you want to paint a wall, right? So that is a visual challenge that you are facing. So that is the that comes into the UI part,
Right.
right? But how that wall is feeling, or how that room is feeling, or how that anything is feeling is the part of the UX.
Right.
If I talk about the digital products, right? So UI brings users attention to use that product, right? You barely use any product. You barely attract to any product which is very ugly, right?
Agreed.
So UI brings users attention, but UX engages the user.
Yeah, I think fair point for our viewers. So
Right.
have a good UI so that people actually want to use your products, but have a good UX so that they continually keep coming back to your website
Right.
and keep.
So UX retains your user.
Yeah, right. And over and above, I think there are two more terms which we would like to cover. One is CX, customer experience. So customer experience is also a multitude of different small user experience. For example, let's say there is a brand which is selling stuff on floor in a store and also having an online store. So the user experience of an online store purchase and a brand store purchase is going to differ very much. But together they form a customer experience for a brand. And then over and above, there is one more term which I have recently associated to, which is called as brand experience, and I found it also very useful. It ties back to the brand connotation, like when we, for example, want to book a cab, so which is the vendor which comes first to your mind. That actually defines the brand experience, and it varies across person to person. Like I might like to open that app first and some other app first. So there are like different terms: UI, visual element, then UX, how the user are engaging and using the visual which you have created, then the customer experience, the CX, the multitude of UX, and then the holistic term brand experience, like how people are associating to this brand, what is the remembrance of this brand, and
What subconscious is
subconscious.
Right.
Yeah, it's about intangible feeling about when you hear a company's name or a brand's name. So yeah, UI, UX, CX and BX. So these are the four things which we wanted to decode before we actually get into what are laws of UX. So let's deep dive into the laws of UX. We would first like to know what are the laws of UX categories, and post that both of us would share 3 of our top favorite laws which we almost swear by and try to use in any of the product design processes we move towards.
Okay.
So yeah, given you are the industry expert in this,
I'm not sure about the expert, but yes. For me, whatever is defined as a rule or as a law is actually So let's take an example. So let's say there is a law that you need to follow red light, right? You don't want to jump the red light because you have the penalty.
Right.
Why that penalty? Because government or authority wants us to refrain from the collision, right? Similarly, in terms of the product, in terms of the design, there are set of rules. If you can follow those rules, you may end up you may end up in designing a good product. If you don't follow those rules, maybe if you are following your intuition or someone else's experience, then you may build a product, but it hardly matters that if the user is retaining on your product or not, is staying on your product or not.
Right, to add on to that, so laws of UX, even for me, it is not something that you have to follow,
Right.
but they are good principles which if one is aware of, it really helps you to build a better user journey and definitely better UI. And the takeaways for different people are going to definitely differ.
Right.
So, what do you think for user laws of UX? How should designers use this, or how should we categorize it so that designers and product managers can use laws of UX better?
So typically, we are using actually, so if you don't give that particular set of rules a particular description, then also we are following several UX laws, right? It's just that we are unaware of that.
Right.
So if I have to categorize that UX laws, so there I can categorize into four different segments. So one is the information, right? How you are taking the information. If the information is overloaded, or if there is a scarcity of the information, right? Second is the time. How much time you are taking to complete one task, or maybe using the complete product, right? Then comes the meaning.
Right.
Okay, so whatever information you have, either is it a scarcity or an overload, cognition overload, how are you going to interpret that information, and how that information translates into meaning, and how you are, from that meaning you take your decisions. And finally the last is the memory.
Okay.
Right. So let's say if I have to use let's say an Uber app, for example, right, and my past experience fed to my memory that these things, for example, whatever is not good, right? So then I would refrain from taking that particular decision into that particular app.
Cool. So I think that's a great explanation and understanding of how you have categorized and how users can study laws of UX. So for me, I have been studying UI and UX for almost a year. The two main things, the takeaways after studying the laws of UX for me, one was understanding the heuristics. So by heuristics we mean that people are intrinsically wired to learn by doing things rather than by teaching them or telling them. So for example, like riding a bicycle. So you learn it better when you are actually riding a bicycle rather than you see a video of someone else riding a bicycle. Although that information is also helpful, but I think by doing you learn faster. And the second thing is cognitive bias. So the more information you have, the tougher it becomes for the end user to complete the action we want them to complete. So as a product manager, these were the two good takeaways from me after reading through the laws of UX, going through all different websites, and yeah, we'll definitely post some of the reading material for laws of UX in the comment section, so you can check that out. But yes, to summarize, cognitive bias and heuristics, these are the two things product managers should take care of on how to utilize the laws of UX in their day-to-day design products. Apart from that, I think knowing these laws of UX is definitely helpful. So we would possibly be not able to cover all the laws of UX in this section.
There are more than 100 UX laws.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So the categorization is something which we really wanted to press on. But the other thing which I wanted to cover on was that how product managers should help build these experiences into the the daily nitty-gritties of the products they are building. So when it comes to UX, I have personally found that collaborating with design team, engineering team, after sales team, and basically making the usability of the product better is something what a product manager should work on. Like rather than like going into the nitty-gritties of what should be the icon and all, that's definitely should be left to the experts. But the end-to-end user experience, from the starting of the usage of product till the end and customer service, that is something where the product managers must step in.
Also the feedback.
Also the feedback, yes. That is also one way to measure the UX, thanks for raising. So NPS is definitely a metric which can be used to measure both the user experience, and for user experience of course we can have more metrics like we can funnel out the whole user journey. For example, it could be a success metric that people are actually searching and adding stuff in your cart. So that could be one funnel. Then the other funnel could be you have added stuff in your cart, but did you actually purchase it? So we can actually measure the different drops and improve the user experience in the funnels.
Would you like to shed light on that NPS metrics that you are talking about?
Right. So I think NPS metric come play in measuring the customer experience more, because the customer experience part, especially when it comes to B2B enterprise solution, it also involves the sales cycle, the deployment cycle, the pricing, the trials, the freemium models. So the pre part of how the customer actually come to the point that they start using your product is also including in the CX. So if a customer is actually happy using your product, so your NPS is going to be high, which is like Net Promoter Score. So this is what product managers also want to do. Like a customer who says that your product is good is the best metric to measure and the best word of mouth publicity. So CX building. So a product manager must liaise with the sales team, the deployment team, the pricing team to build a better CX. And then coming to the brand experience. So brand experience is like remembrance, as you said. This is remembrance. So how do product managers fit into building a better brand experience? That is like help your marketing team. So there has to be like constant awareness and constant word out about your product. And
a better outreach maybe.
Ensuring that the way the product is supposed to work is also the way it is getting communicated to the prospective clients. So we can have a good UI, a very good product, but if the brand experience and the promise of the brand is not in line with that great UX and UI, then also it is a problem, because it will be tough for anyone to get more clients. Exactly. So I think all of the funnels, everyone plays a good role, but then a lot of stuff where product managers can actively work on. Then it also depends on the stage your company is at and the role you are actually playing. Because in a smaller firm, you may be playing and liaising with different teams.
You may be wearing a lot of hats at several point of time.
Correct. And if you do have such an opportunity at your disposal, please do work with all different teams in your company and try to build a better UI, better UX, better CX, and the last thing, better PX, or the brand experience.
Right.
So finally, we are at the section where we want to start sharing the top favorite UX flaws. I went through a lot of my notes last night, looking for the top 3 ones, which I would like to share with our viewers. So let's start with the industry expert, and we would like to know what are those favorite laws which product managers and designers should swear by.
I'm not sure about the expert, but let me try to articulate this. So instead of 3, I want to talk about 4 different laws, because I have categorized those laws into 4 categories. The meaning, right? The information. So first the information, then the meaning, then the time, and then the memory, right? So the first law which I wanted to talk about is specifically because a lot of freshers came to me when I write about the UX laws and all those things, that came to me that if I don't know about these laws, which is very obvious because they are just entering into the industry, right? So if they are not aware of those laws and if they are not following those laws, is it possible to get a better job or those things? So specifically for those guys, I want to talk about this one law which is called aesthetic usability effect. So aesthetic usability effects tells you about the aesthetics part first, then the usability part. So beauty comes first and the usability comes second. So if there is, let's say if you are using any product which is absolutely looking beautiful, right? Whether it will be a tangible product or a digital product, right? So you tend to ignore its minor usability flaws, right? So this is very typical. So let's say if you are entering into a restaurant, right, and the ambience is very good and all those things are very good, the ushers are very nice to you, the chefs are very nice to you,
right,
and you started eating food, and somehow you kind of don't like
even if the food is not that great, but the whole ambience is great, so we liked. So I think the
aesthetic. So then you will let that pass, and then you will think that okay, maybe this time they don't cook that food properly, but maybe on the next time, right?
Right. In fact, like if I have two restaurants in front of me, one is like very nice gate and its interior are very nice, and the other one maybe is serving better food, but if it is like it doesn't have air conditioning or the chairs are broken, I might end up choosing the one which is looking better.
Exactly.
Because yes, that is what the law actually dictates, the aesthetic usability effect.
So this is a very common behavior actually, right? So we tend towards the beauty, and then we'll think about the usability.
Agreed.
And if the usability has some flaws, or I mean, we will let that pass, right?
Yeah, I think this can be applied to real life as well.
Right. So for those freshers especially, I want to take that note that focus on the design. When I'm saying about design now, I'm talking about the aesthetics part.
Aesthetics.
Right. So focus towards your aesthetics, and obviously you will learn usability gradually in your career.
Right.
So how do you focus towards your aesthetics could be the second question, right? So the answer is observe as many websites as you can, observe as many apps as you can, use as many apps as you can, use as many websites as you can, because I feel that human wisdom is the pattern recognition.
Agreed. Yes.
Right. So let's say I have 20 years of experience in design. That means I have went through rigorous amount of website, apps and all those things, and through that, after, because that comes naturally to me now to design a better product as from the aesthetic point of view.
Right. Just because you have actually seen a different variety of products, you have gone through that cycle, and it helps you. So this takes us to the second law also, right? So there is this one law also that humans try to perceive patterns even if there are, things are scattered, but we tend to see those patterns. Like if you're seeing a picture of a wing, you'll probably see a picture of a wing and you might end up seeing something else also. So yeah.
That brings me to a very interesting point actually. So how do you remember anybody's phone number? Right?
Yeah,
so you remember phone number in bits, in chunks, right? So let's say if you have to remember, let's say 6 words, 6 digits, right? 932343, for example, right? So you will not remember it by 9323. You will remember by 932343. So this is quick.
Correct.
So because you have because of that pattern in your mind, which is easy to remember.
Okay, so the first law on my list, which I want to share with our viewers, is Hicks' law. So Hicks' law states that the time it takes to make a decision increases with the number of choices you present to your user. So, this is not just really applicable to UI and UX, but to any type of user experience which you are trying to create. Then how do we utilize this law in our day-to-day activities? So we should try to break larger complex tasks into smaller steps in order to reduce the cognitive load on users' mind. Avoid overwhelming your users with a lot of choices. So for example, if you are on an OTT platform, at times the toughest thing is actually to find the movie or the series which you want to watch.
Exactly.
Because
I'm the victim.
Yeah, and I think the AI and ML which we are building every day, which is getting stronger and stronger, actually plays a good role in utilization of this Hicks law. Because if you, let's say, like always like to watch rom-coms, and you open the OTT platform and these romantic comedies are the ones which are coming, it's easier for you to choose, and you end up spending a lot more time on this streaming platform rather than going somewhere else. So Hicks law, reduce the complexity, reduce the number of choices, just give the choices which this user actually have to make, so that they can actually concentrate on the end result, end funnel, rather than spending time choosing what they want to do. So yeah. So back to you. What is the second law which you would like to share with our viewers?
The second law which I would like to talk about is the pseudo-set framing. The pseudo-set framing is talked about. So let's say if we have to design a form, right? During designing that form, so let's say if there are multiple fields, for example, right? So let's say if that is a government form, so let's say if you are applying for a license or something like that, right? So those forms are very tedious, right? So what you will do, so for overcome this process, if overcome this tedious task, you will chunk those information into separate, into different parts. Right. So if you so let's say you have designed a wizard. So step number 1, put up your basic information. Step number 2, do this. Step number 3, do this, and then finally submit. Right. So if you group those information, then those things for user is easy to manage and easy to consume. So this is all about the pseudo set framing.
Right. I think it definitely makes sense. The grouping definitely helps to reduce that cognitive bias, cognitive overload. Sorry. Yeah. So I think that definitely plays in.
Exactly.
Cool. The second law which I want to cover, which is one of my favorite law, is Jacob's law. So the Jacob's law says that the users spend most of their time on other sites, and they expect that your product also works in a familiar fashion they are already aware of. So this is definitely right. Like I mean, the earlier example which I gave. So the handle of the cup. I mean, it's very intuitive for us to hold the cup from the handle. So the other example would be on most of the e-commerce site, the cart button always come on the top right corner. So we are always like bound to click on that top right corner to see what have we added to our bag. So these are some of the examples of how Jacob's law has been utilized. And what product managers can do to better utilize Jacob's law is understand the user segment. I mean, for the user segment you are building this product. Obviously, the UX designers and UI designers can play a lot of good role in the research around this. But the types of product these users are actually using should govern the UI and UX of the product which you are trying to build. So that's how I feel the Jacob's law ties back, and it's something which everyone should use in designing new products.
So my next law,
the third law.
The third law is came from your cue actually. It is all about the research of the user, right? So the law states the law is called the observer expectancy effect. So let's say I am taking an interview by me. So let's say I am designing a product, and you are my perfect user, right? And I am taking certain interviews. I am taking interview with a certain set of questions.
Okay.
But keeping in mind my biases.
Right.
Right. So let's say I have a bias towards anything, and if I feed you that biased question, the answer which makes my product better will.
Right. It's like if you like dark mode, doesn't mean your user also like using products in dark mode. So
exactly.
We have to have an open mindset around this and design products keeping in mind the user rather than our own personal choices.
So this is a very very tightrope situation, because some way or the other we are actually biased, right? And if you are taking your users interview, so this is very critical. Very critical for an interviewer who is taking an interview to keep your biases aside.
Right. So observer
expectancy effect.
Right. Observant expectancy effect. Keep your personal biases out of it and just focus on what your user wants. Right.
Exactly.
Cool. And the third and final law which I want to cover, I think not just product managers but engineers will also like this law, coming from an engineering background. So that law is called Postel's law. The Postel's law states that be liberal in what you accept and be conservative in what you send.
This is one of my favorite laws.
Okay, great then. So yeah, this actually applies to everyday real life also. So just explaining what this law means. So this is the law of robustness. So anything you are making, it's useful in building digital products. So we should be able to accept a variety of inputs from users. Even errorful inputs or anything, and we should be able to run through that in our product's logic and give back a meaningful feedback or error mechanism. So for example, you are searching for something but there is nothing in our database for that search, then what is next for this user? Or for example, you are building a mission critical application and there could be like variable type of inputs. So the application should be built in a way that it can accept these variable inputs and still give some meaningful feedback to the user rather than a random code error. So yeah, this is what Postal's law says, that accept everything but process it before telling it back. So yeah, that thing which they say ki, react or respond. So this postal law is actually
right, respond.
Respond, yeah. Respond rather than
Respond
react. Yeah, don't show code errors to your end users.
Right.
Cool. And the last law which you would like to cover.
Before that, I want to add one more law towards your law,
Oh, nice.
which is
A bonus law.
A bonus law, yes, which is called as knowledge curse effect.
Okay.
Knowledge curse effect states that, so let's say if I am a developer and I know that if this happens, this error will come.
Right.
So this is very obvious to me. So that 404 is 404, right? 404 means that the page not found. But that is the curse of the curse of knowledge, right?
But the user doesn't
But
know.
user doesn't know about the
what is
404.
404.
But they want what is 404. So this is actually fed from your.
Right. So we should make it more robust, that different types of errors can actually also translate into something meaningful for our end users.
Exactly, and an entry towards a different page maybe. So let's say if there is a 404 hits, then you can give some hyperlinks over there so that user can drive from that page to some other page.
Right.
So that should not be a terminal page.
Right. Makes sense. There should be some way out for the end user even after
Exactly.
the error. Cool. So what is that last law which you would
last
like to
law
cover
is
for our users?
so last law is called as Zeigarnik effect.
Zeigarnik effect.
Zeigarnik effect. So it tells you about that usually people remember incomplete or interrupted task more than the complete tasks.
Right.
So it came from that bucket from the memory. Right. So it all about that. So let's say if I am working on something and someone interrupted me, right? So my focus instantly goes whatever I was doing towards that interruption.
Yeah, it's
right?
like having a cliffhanger at the end of the movie, and that is the movie which second part you actually want to watch.
Exactly. So to overcome that Zeigarnik effect, especially in digital products, we can place progress bars, right? We can place check marks.
Alright, I think that was 7 different laws which we cover for our viewers, and we hope you would have find these laws useful and would find them useful to be used in your day-to-day product design task, product building task, and even in your day-to-day life, because laws of UX can be used not just for building software products but creating any type of user experience, as small as going on a sales demo, or actually preparing a meal for a family. So it can be applied to any type of.
Exactly. So know your user better and then decide whatever you want to design.
Right. Know your user better.
Right.
Use the heuristics law and don't give them any cognitive overload. Right.
Yeah. So one thing I would like to add into this, that these laws are not typically for designers or for product managers. These laws are also for the CEOs and all those things which are actually the decision makers.
Right.
So start learning about the UX laws. Start learning around the users, what they think, what they feel, what are their feedbacks, and then start thinking towards your product betterment.
Right. I think it's a great line to end this podcast on. So we would definitely post some of the reading materials and Amit's LinkedIn profile also, which has a lot of laws of UX material to read.
So I have more laws on Instagram rather than LinkedIn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So
but
we'll share all of the material for you in our comments section. So please like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Definitely comment. Comment is really very important. If you are liking or disliking, but please put your comment, whatever you feel like.
And if you would like to have more session on laws of UX or product design, or if you would like to reach out Amit on his LinkedIn to know more about laws of UX, please feel free to do so. And bye for now. We'll see you later with more sessions on product and design.